Have you ever wondered what really happens inside your body when you stop being intimate after 60? Not emotionally, but biologically. I'm Dr. Evelyn Hartman, a geriatric specialist and men's hormone researcher with over 25 years of experience, exploring the powerful link between intimacy and the body's internal systems. Through my clinical work, I've discovered something deeply concerning. When men lose physical intimacy, they're not just losing emotional connection. They're quietly opening the door to biological disruptions that can silently damage their health. Society teaches us that aging means the end of desire, but science tells a different story. Maintaining intimacy in any form plays a vital role in keeping the heart steady, the immune system alert, and the spirit resilient. Giving it up entirely is like cutting off a powerful current of renewal. From within, this video will offer you a new perspective where physical and emotional health meet, and where seemingly small behaviors can lead to profound changes. And when we get to point number 7, you'll understand why thousands of my patients have turned their lives around from just one simple habit. So, if you're ready for a truth no one's talking about, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and leave a 1 in the comments to let me know you're with me. If you're not quite there yet, leave a 0. I'm still here, ready to listen. But what if I told you that neglecting intimacy doesn't just dim emotional connection, it could quietly undermine the very organ keeping you alive, your heart? You see, most people assume cardiovascular health hinges solely on medication, clean eating, and exercise. And while those are undeniably important, they don't tell the full story. As a physician who has tracked the aging process for decades, I've seen how consistent physical intimacy, yes, even in your 60s, 70s, and beyond, acts like a gentle cardiovascular workout. Not strenuous, not dangerous, but deeply restorative. When two people engage in intimacy, blood vessels dilate, circulation improves, and the heart is gently challenged in the best possible way. This leads to lower blood pressure, enhanced arterial elasticity, and improved oxygen delivery to muscles and the brain. And it's not about intensity or frequency, it's about consistency. Just as you wouldn't expect to stay healthy by walking once a month, the same principle applies here. But when that connection fades, when touch becomes rare and affection is withheld, the body senses loss. The heart no longer receives those natural surges of circulation and hormonal release. Over time, this can contribute to chronic stress, inflammation, and an increased risk of heart disease. What's more, the absence of intimacy often goes hand in hand with rising loneliness. And we know from decades of research that loneliness is a silent killer, rivaling smoking or obesity in its long-term toll. So how do we protect the heart without pushing physical limits? It starts with understanding that intimacy isn't just sexual. It's emotional safety, shared touch, physical closeness, holding hands, slow dancing, cuddling. These are acts of health, not indulgence. If you've withdrawn over time, you're not alone. But know this, reintroducing safe, affectionate connection can be a therapeutic act. It's not too late to start. Reignite that bond, and your heart, both emotional and biological, will thank you. And yet, the heart is only the beginning. Because what's happening in your cardiovascular system is just one reflection of a much deeper pattern of decline, one that affects your strength, your stamina, and even your brain. Let's talk about that next. If your heart responds to touch, what about your muscles and joints? Could the absence of intimacy be silently accelerating physical decline in ways we rarely consider? Most people think of strength training or daily walks as the cornerstone of physical vitality in later life. But here's the surprising truth. Regular sexual intimacy engages far more than emotions. It calls upon multiple muscle groups, encourages dynamic movement, and fosters coordination in subtle, functional ways. For many older adults, this type of activity provides low impact, natural resistance that mimics light exercise, only with a more meaningful connection. Without it, however, something begins to shift. The muscles, especially in the core, hips, and lower body, lose tone more quickly. Joints stiffen due to underuse. Balance declines. And while this change is gradual and almost invisible at first, it often leads to a cycle of reduced mobility, sedentary behavior, and rising risk of falls or injury. Your body doesn't just miss the movement, it misses the message that movement matters. Even more critically, the sense of physical confidence that comes from staying active often starts in moments of closeness. Intimacy fosters a sense of vitality, agency, and capability. Without it, we tend to withdraw, not just from relationships, but from movement itself. And once that retreat begins, it's incredibly hard to reverse. But here's the good news. You don't need to run marathons or hit the gym 5 days a week. Rekindling a healthy level of intimacy, whatever that looks like for you, can restore functional strength, improve joint mobility, and reignite a desire to move through life with more freedom. So, if you've felt stiffness creeping in, or noticed your steps becoming slower, ask yourself, could re-engaging with physical closeness be part of the solution? Because what comes next may surprise you even more. What if I told you that the absence of intimacy doesn't just weaken your body, it can dull your brain, diminish your memory, and erode the very clarity you rely on each day? Let's look deeper into how this affects your mind and what you can do to protect it. If your joints stiffen from lack of movement, could your brain dull from a lack of intimacy? It might sound surprising, but the science is crystal clear. The human brain is profoundly influenced by emotional and physical closeness, especially as we age. During intimate connection, the brain releases a potent cocktail of neurochemicals like dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins. These aren't just feel-good hormones. They're essential for memory retention, emotional stability, and even the brain's ability to form and maintain new neural pathways. In older adults, where cognitive preservation becomes a daily priority, this gentle form of neurological stimulation may be more important than ever. Regular, emotional, and physical intimacy works like mental exercise, triggering brain regions involved in reward, memory, empathy, and trust. It helps keep the mind agile, sharp, and responsive. But when intimacy disappears, the impact is gradual and often unnoticed at first. The brain stops receiving those biochemical signals that help regulate mood and boost cognitive plasticity. Over time, this absence can contribute to increased anxiety, low motivation, and even early cognitive decline. It's not just about missing companionship. It's about depriving the brain of one of its most natural and powerful forms of stimulation. The good news: you don't need grand romantic gestures to protect your brain. Even simple, meaningful physical contact, a prolonged hug, a shared laugh, holding hands, can release enough oxytocin to lower cortisol, reduce anxiety, and improve memory performance. The key is consistency and emotional sincerity, and beyond memory and mood, there's something even deeper at risk: the sense of being seen, valued, and emotionally connected. As humans, we don't just want to remember life, we want to feel known within it. When that need goes unmet, it doesn't just affect our brain function, it chips away at our sense of identity. In the next part, we'll explore how this silent erosion of emotional connection may not only affect your brain, but also trigger a cascade of physical, hormonal, and relational imbalances that ripple through the rest of the body. Don't miss what comes next. If our brains suffer from a lack of stimulation, what happens to the emotional glue that holds our relationships together? As we grow older, emotional intimacy doesn't become less important, it becomes essential. But without consistent physical closeness, that emotional bond often begins to quietly erode. Intimacy isn't just about the act of sex, it's about shared vulnerability, trust, and the subtle language of connection that includes touch, tone, eye contact, and affection. When these begin to fade, couples often transition from partners to roommates without even realizing it. Conversations shift toward logistics, touch becomes rare, and over time, the sense of being seen, desired, and emotionally nourished begins to slip away. The spark dims not from a lack of love, but from a lack of attention to what nurtures it. Many older adults report feeling isolated or emotionally abandoned, even while still in long-term relationships. And this isn't just about feelings. Emotional disconnection has well-documented physiological effects. Loneliness is now recognized as a serious health risk linked to elevated blood pressure, chronic inflammation, weakened immune response, and depression. The absence of emotional intimacy weakens more than the heart. It weakens the whole system. But there is a way forward. Emotional intimacy can be rebuilt, sometimes more deeply than before. Start small. Hold your partner's gaze when you speak. Place a hand on theirs while sharing a story. Prioritize a moment of undistracted connection each day. These gestures, paired with physical affection, can rekindle a sense of emotional safety and closeness. And here's something few people realize. Restoring emotional intimacy can improve your sleep. That's right. Couples who reconnect emotionally often experience deeper, more restful sleep, thanks to the calming effects of oxytocin and lowered stress levels at night. So ask yourself, when was the last time you truly felt emotionally close? Rebuilding that bridge doesn't require grand romantic gestures. It requires presence, intention, and a willingness to rediscover one another. Coming up, we'll explore how intimacy, or the absence of it, directly influences the quality of your sleep and the hormonal patterns that govern healing, weight, and energy. What you learn next may shift how you approach bedtime forever. If emotional closeness helps calm your heart, what happens to your nights when that connection fades? For many older adults, sleep becomes harder to find and even harder to keep. But few realize how deeply linked sleep quality is to physical intimacy. After sexual release, the body naturally produces a surge of prolactin, a hormone that fosters deep relaxation and signals the brain that it's safe to rest. At the same time, oxytocin, often called the cuddle hormone, is released, easing tension, lowering stress hormones like cortisol, and reducing anxiety, one of the most common causes of poor sleep in later years. While many seniors turn to medication for sleep, the solution may be far more natural and far more human. When intimacy vanishes from a person's life, so do these chemical messengers of calm. The result, a mind that races, a body that stays tense, and nights filled with restlessness rather than restoration. If you find yourself tossing and turning, waking up more tired than when you went to bed, or struggling to feel truly rested, the missing link might not be melatonin or a new mattress. It might be touch. Physical closeness, even without full sexual activity, can initiate the same hormonal cascade that supports restful sleep and deep nighttime healing. And it goes further. Sleep isn't just about closing your eyes. It's the time when your brain consolidates memory, your cells repair, and your emotions stabilize. When sleep suffers, your energy, mood, and immune health begin to suffer too. But perhaps the most overlooked casualty of losing intimacy is internal, the quiet erosion of self-confidence. When physical connection fades, many begin to question their desirability, vitality, and worth. It's not just your sleep being disturbed, it's your sense of self. Coming up next, we'll explore how this subtle loss of confidence can seep into every corner of your well-being, impacting posture, hormones, social life, and even how you walk through the world. What you believe about yourself may be the next thing we need to rebuild. If losing sleep affects your body, what happens when you start losing belief in yourself? Aging changes many things, but few are more quietly devastating than the erosion of self-esteem, especially when physical intimacy disappears. Over time, when no one touches you, desires you, or engages with you on a sensual level, it's easy to start feeling invisible. For many older adults, this silence from the body becomes a silence in the soul. Without realizing it, they begin to believe the best years are behind them, that attraction, desire, and vitality belong only to the young. But that belief is not only wrong, it's dangerous. Physical intimacy sends powerful emotional signals to the brain and body. You matter, you are alive, you can give and receive love. Without that reinforcement, self-doubt creeps in. You may stop looking in the mirror. You may avoid reaching for your partner's hand. You might withdraw, not because you don't care, but because you no longer feel worthy of being cared for, and the effects ripple outward. Your posture slouches, your smile fades, the way you speak about yourself becomes more critical. But something incredible happens when even a small amount of closeness is restored. Shoulders lift, eye contact returns, and a quiet confidence begins to reawaken. That renewed confidence doesn't just change how you feel, it shifts how your body operates. Research shows that positive self-perception improves immune function, stabilizes hormone levels, and increases resilience to illness. In short, reclaiming your sense of worth is not just an emotional act, it's a physiological one. So how can you begin? Start by rejecting the myth that aging makes you less desirable. Practice one small gesture of connection each day. A kiss on the cheek, a compliment, a moment of honest vulnerability. Let those moments remind you that intimacy isn't about age, it's about presence. And now, we arrive at the most overlooked consequence of all. What if the absence of intimacy doesn't just affect how you feel, but quietly dismantles your immune defenses from within? In the next part, we'll uncover how disconnection affects your ability to fight disease, and what you can do to restore your body's natural armor. If your confidence quietly shapes your posture, could your immune system be silently shaped by intimacy? Most people think of immunity in terms of vitamins, hand washing, or staying active, and those are essential. But what's often overlooked is the role that physical connection, especially sexual intimacy, plays in keeping your immune defenses sharp, particularly in later years. Regular intimacy has been associated with higher levels of immunoglobulin, IgA, an antibody that serves as your body's first line of defense against colds, respiratory infections, and more. At the same time, Sexual activity helps regulate hormones, reduce systemic inflammation, and improve cellular health, all critical components of immune resilience as we age. When this part of life fades, so too do the hormonal and neurological responses that help fortify the immune system. You may not notice it immediately, but over time you might find yourself getting sick more often, feeling unusually fatigued, or struggling to recover from minor illnesses. The body becomes less efficient at healing because one of its natural regulators, physical closeness, is missing. What's remarkable is how restorative intimacy can be. A healthy sexual relationship doesn't just lift your mood, it fortifies your biological defenses from the inside out. It's one of nature's most enjoyable forms of preventive medicine. So what can you do if that connection has faded? Begin gently. Initiate moments of physical touch, even if it's not sexual. A warm embrace, a shared laugh, or lying close in silence can reawaken biochemical pathways that protect your health in powerful ways. But the story doesn't end here, because the absence of intimacy doesn't just weaken your defenses, it can also disrupt the very way your mind and body process stress. And chronic stress, when left unbalanced, may do more harm than any virus. In the next part, we'll explore how disconnection amplifies stress signals in the body, and how restoring closeness may be one of the most powerful tools for calm, clarity, and resilience. If losing intimacy weakens your immune system, could it also silently turn up the volume on stress and anxiety? As we grow older, the sources of stress may shift: retirement, health concerns, social changes, but the body's response becomes more intense. What many people don't realize is that sexual intimacy isn't just about pleasure or connection, it's a built-in natural stress reliever. During moments of intimacy, the body releases a symphony of neurochemicals: dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. Together, these substances calm the nervous system, reduce anxiety, and promote lasting emotional equilibrium. Think of it as your body's own internal anti-anxiety prescription. No pills, no side effects. Oxytocin, in particular, acts like a biological safety signal. It lowers cortisol levels, softens the body's fight-or-flight response, and enhances feelings of trust, grounding, and security. This isn't just emotional comfort, it's physiological regulation, but when intimacy fades, that soothing chemical cascade fades with it. Day by day, stress accumulates without an outlet. Minor worries start to feel overwhelming. Sleep becomes more fragile. Your mind spins faster at night, and your patience shortens during the day. Without physical closeness to release this emotional pressure, stress finds other ways to express itself: muscle tightness, digestive issues, irritability, or even high blood pressure. The absence of intimacy doesn't just leave an emotional void. It removes one of your body's most powerful tools for mental and emotional reset. So how do you reclaim that tool? Start with intentional touch. Even simple physical gestures, a hand on the back, a shared smile, a moment of gentle stillness, can begin to retrain your body to release stress naturally. Create routines of connection, not just conversation. Your nervous system thrives on signals of safety and care, but the consequences of disconnection don't stop at stress. They reach into something even more personal: your brain's ability to stay sharp, focused, and emotionally resilient. In the next section, we'll uncover how intimacy, or the lack of it, shapes memory, clarity, and the very architecture of aging in your mind. If stress builds in the silence of disconnection, what happens to the very relationship you once found comfort in? One of the quietest, Yet most profound consequences of lost intimacy is how it reshapes the foundation of a relationship. Over time, as physical closeness fades, emotional distance often follows. Couples who once shared warmth, touch, and spontaneous affection can slowly drift apart, not because the love has disappeared, but because it stops being expressed in ways that truly matter. Sexual intimacy isn't just a physical act, it's a language of trust, vulnerability, and shared emotional safety. When that language falls silent, even the most committed relationships can begin to feel flat or disconnected. The laughter, playfulness, and moments of delight that once came easily may be replaced by routine, politeness, or silence. Conversations become transactional. Affection feels awkward or withheld. Both partners may feel neglected or unimportant, even if the bond of love remains. Intimacy is what keeps a long-term relationship from becoming just long. It keeps it alive, emotionally charged, and fulfilling. And when we let go of that connection, we don't just change how we feel, we change the entire relational dynamic. Emotional safety erodes, misunderstandings increase, and a quiet loneliness can settle in between two people who still care deeply but have forgotten how to show it. So how do we protect what matters? It starts with rebuilding physical trust, slowly, gently, without pressure. Simple acts of affection, a kiss on the forehead, a hand held a little longer, a whispered affirmation. These can reintroduce emotional bonding one moment at a time. Relationships don't usually collapse overnight, and they can be repaired in the same way, gradually, intentionally, with heart. But here's the deeper truth. When physical intimacy disappears for too long, the body doesn't just miss it. It begins to forget how to respond to it altogether. In the next section, we'll explore what happens when sexual function itself begins to shut down from disuse, and how science shows us it's still possible to restore what feels lost. If love fades in silence, what happens when the body forgets how to respond? As difficult as it may be to admit, the human body is designed to respond to use or lack thereof. Just like muscles weaken without exercise, sexual function also begins to decline when it's no longer activated. This isn't about age, it's about biology. And the message is clear: use it or lose it. In men, this may show up as slower arousal, softer erections, or longer recovery times. For women, it can mean increased vaginal dryness, decreased elasticity, and discomfort during intimacy. These changes don't happen overnight. They emerge slowly, subtly, until one day, intimacy feels more awkward than exciting, more effort than ease. This begins a quiet cycle. Discomfort leads to avoidance, and avoidance leads to further decline. Blood flow decreases, nerve sensitivity diminishes, muscular tone in the pelvic floor weakens. But here's what your body is trying to tell you. Staying sexually engaged, even in gentle and emotionally safe ways, helps preserve function. It supports circulation, maintains healthy tissue, and keeps the nervous system responsive. Even light forms of affection, touch, massage, kissing, or simply lying close, can send signals to the body that intimacy still matters. These signals stimulate hormones, improve blood flow, and keep the body in tune with what it's still very capable of doing. Ignoring this part of yourself may seem harmless at first, but over time, the path back to comfort and confidence becomes steeper. Fortunately, the body is adaptable. Restoration is possible, but it requires consistency, patience, and the belief that you are still deserving of connection and pleasure. But physical function is only half the story. What if the most important sexual organ isn't located below the waist at all? What if the real driver of intimacy, desire, and healing is hidden between your ears, not your legs? In the next section, we'll uncover why your brain is the most powerful sexual organ and how training your mind can reignite what your body may have forgotten. If your body can remember what it once knew, what's stopping you from starting again today? No matter your age or how long it's been, the journey back to intimacy is not only possible, it can begin right now. And often, the first step has nothing to do with the body. It starts with a conversation. Talk openly with your partner, not just about sex, but about connection, what you miss, what you hope for, and what you want to rebuild together. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the doorway to real emotional closeness. When we speak honestly, we offer our partners the opportunity to meet us where we are and walk forward together. If physical challenges are part of the picture, dryness, discomfort, low libido, or erectile issues, don't ignore them. These are common and often easily treatable. Speak with a trusted doctor. Today's solutions are not just medical. Many are holistic, gentle, and designed with aging bodies in mind. Start small, a lingering hug, holding hands, gentle back rubs. These tiny, consistent gestures create safety and warmth. And from that warmth, deeper intimacy can grow naturally without pressure. If you're single, this still matters. Connection begins with self-awareness. Reconnecting with your own needs, desires, and physical comfort is a powerful act of self-care. Intimacy isn't only about others, it's also about being in tune with yourself. So give yourself permission to be curious again. Try new things. Approach intimacy with wonder, not judgment. You're not too old to feel desired. You're just waiting for the right moment to rediscover that part of yourself. That moment is now. You don't need perfection. You just need presence. A touch, a laugh, a shared glance. These are the moments that rebuild intimacy. One honest connection at a time. Because healing isn't about going backward. It's about choosing today to move forward. Your body remembers. Your heart remembers. And when you're ready, even if you're scared, it all begins again, right where you are. If your heart, body, and mind have carried you this far, what if the most meaningful chapter of your intimacy is still ahead of you? Aging is often framed as a slow surrender, a fading of passion, desire, and connection. Society tells us that intimacy belongs to the young, that romance has an expiration date, and that after a certain age, sexuality becomes unnecessary or even inappropriate. But that narrative couldn't be further from the truth. The reality is, intimacy in later life isn't just possible, it's profoundly necessary. It's not about chasing your 20s. It's about preserving the most human parts of yourself. Connection, affection, touch, desire, and allowing them to evolve with grace, depth, and purpose. Intimacy in your 60s, 70s, or even 80s doesn't have to look the way it once did to be meaningful. In fact, it often becomes richer, emotionally deeper, spiritually healing, and physically more intentional. When physical closeness fades, it doesn't just affect your love life, it ripples through every dimension of well-being. Your heart grows more vulnerable without regular affection. Muscles lose tone. Joints stiffen. Your brain misses out on the powerful neurochemicals that enhance memory, mood, and mental sharpness. Sleep becomes lighter. Self-confidence wanes. and your immune system silently weakens. Over time, you may begin to feel less seen, less vital, less alive. But here's what matters most. It's never too late to change that. Whether you're in a long-term relationship or living alone, you can begin again. Rebuilding intimacy doesn't start with perfection. It starts with presence. A held hand, a small conversation, a moment of shared laughter. These aren't small gestures. They are the building blocks of vitality. They remind you that you are still here, still capable of love, joy, closeness, and connection. If you're partnered, begin with honesty. Share what you feel, not just physically, but emotionally. Express the desire to reconnect. You might be surprised by how many couples are quietly longing for the same, but unsure how to begin. Seek support if needed. Erectile dysfunction, vaginal dryness, low libido. There are solutions that are simple, effective, and life-changing. If you're single, don't assume intimacy is out of reach. Connection begins not with another person, but with how you treat yourself. Practice self-care. Explore your own body. Learn what soothes, comforts, and brings you pleasure. Rediscover the joy of touch, even if it begins alone. Because intimacy is more than sex. It's a state of connection between body, mind, and spirit. More than anything, let go of the outdated idea that aging equals isolation. You are not too old for intimacy. You have not missed your chance. In fact, you may be standing at the threshold of the most meaningful, authentic connection of your entire life, if you allow yourself to walk through. So if this message has stirred something in you, even just a flicker, don't push it aside. That feeling is a sign. Your heart, your body, your spirit are still awake, still longing, still capable of connection. Let's remember what we've uncovered together. That aging doesn't mean the end of intimacy. It means the beginning of a different kind. One with more presence, more depth, more honesty. That physical touch, emotional openness, and gentle vulnerability aren't reserved for youth. They are the building blocks of lasting vitality. That your body may have changed, but it hasn't stopped responding. That your needs haven't disappeared, they've deepened. And that the path to reconnection doesn't start with grand gestures. It starts with one honest moment at a time. So choose that moment today. Reach for someone. Listen to yourself. Allow curiosity back into your life. Every small act of closeness, a hand held, a warm word, a shared smile, carries with it the power to heal, to ignite, to remind you that you are still very much alive. And if this conversation spoke to you, even a little, I invite you to pass it on. Share it with someone who may need to hear that they are not too old, not too late, not forgotten. Drop a comment below. What does intimacy mean to you today? What does connection feel like in this chapter of life? If you haven't yet, I'd love for you to subscribe. Hit that like button and turn on the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Because aging isn't the end. It's the moment you finally start living fully.